Hello, fifth graders. Today we're going to go over how to divide decimals, divide with remainders, build numbers, and how to convert fractions. So for the first section we're going to go over is how to divide decimals, and we're going to be dividing number 1. It says 3.0 divided by 0.3. So now before we go over how to solve that problem, I'm going to go over the different components of division. So we have our divisor, which is outside this division sign over here, and dividend goes inside of it, and our quotient will be placed on top of this. So throughout this whole lesson, I'm going to be color coding. So number 1, I'm going to start by color coding what the dividend and what the divisor is. So our dividend will be 3.0. Our divisor will be 0.3. So now knowing this, I'm going to just copy this format. Our divisor goes over here, 0.3. And I'm going to place this division mark. And then I'm going to place dividend inside this mark. And now what we're going to find is the green zone. So the thing about dividing decimals that's different from regular division is the fact that our divisor has a decimal point. So I'm going to be teaching you a simpler way to divide decimals, and that simple way involves getting rid of this decimal. So no, that does not necessarily mean you're going to get rid of this decimal point. What we're actually doing is moving this decimal point. And in order to make our divisor a whole number again, we're going to move this decimal point 1 to the right. What this will result in is our new divisor being 3. And just like algebra, what you do to divisor, you're going to do the same for your dividend. So you're also going to move the decimal 1 to the right for your dividend. So now our new dividend will be 30. So now this makes it much easier to divide. As you can tell, now we're just dividing 30 divided by 3, which we all know that as 10, but I'm just going to go through the steps. So 30 goes into 3 as 1 by 1, and this will result in 0. And then I'm going to bring the 0 down and 0. And as expected, our quotient will be 10. So pretty easy, just the part about moving the decimal. So dividing decimals involves 2 steps. Moving the decimal in order to get our divisor into a whole number, then just dividing normally. So the second section we're going to go over is how to divide with remainders, and we're back with the color coding. So we're going to find the quotient with the remainder. This time we're going to be dealing with the remainder, and I use yellow to represent the remainders. So number 2 is 65 divided by 4, and I'm going to start color coding. So 65 is our dividend, our 4 is our divisor. So I'm just going to follow that format. So 4 goes on the outside, and then we're going to have 65 go in the inside. Now, as you can tell from the previous lesson, what's different is that our 4 is not a decimal anymore, it's a whole number, so we do not have to go through the steps of moving the decimal point. So now, since we don't have to go through that step, all we need to do is divide normally. So 4 goes into 6 one time, 6 minus 4, which is 2, and 25, we bring it down, and 4 goes into 25 6 times, because 6 times 4 is 24, and we'll end up with 1. So this is our remainder, what we're left with. So remainder is what the final answer you get after you divide everything. So now over here, now that we have our components, our divisor, which is 4, our quotient, which is 16, our remainder, which is 1, and our dividend, 65. So it says find the quotient with the remainder. Well, we did that. We have our quotient, we have our remainder. So that's what we're going to put as your final answer for number 2, 16 remainder 1. And now something to keep in mind is that your divisor should be greater than your remainder. In other words, your remainder should be less than 4. So your remainder should be less than the divisor. So looking at our problem that we just did right now, we know that our divisor right now is 4 and our remainder is 1. Now find out if 4 is greater than 1. Well, it is, so we did it correctly. So this is just a way to validate whether your remainder is correct. So the third section, we're going to take a break from division, and we're going to be building numbers. We're going to be writing the 5-digit numbers for number 2. So I'll be teaching you the easy way of solving this. It involves really no math, but I will also go over the long way as well. So we know that 8, so when you look at this problem, 80,000 plus 5,000 plus 400 plus 20 plus 8, we notice that there's a lot of zeros. So now, the first thing that I do is circle the number without the 0, except the 0. So 8, 5, everything else is 0, so you don't leave that circled. 4, 2, and 8. So if you notice, your 8 is in your 10,000s. I'm just going to write a 10,000. 5 is your thousands. 4 is your hundreds right now. And then your 2 is our tens. And 8 is our ones. So since we know this fact, we can just easily write this number. So 8 will be our ones for our new number. So pretend there's a decimal place. Pretend there is a decimal point over here. And I'm going to place the ones over here, 8. So right now we have 8. And then we're going to move on to the next one, 2, which goes in our tens place. So we have 28 right now. 4 will be our hundreds. 5 will be our thousands. It matches with our place values, if you could tell. So 8 will be our 10,000. So if you know your place values, this should be very easy. So your final answer should be 85,428. So I assure you, when you add these up, when you do 80,000 plus 5,000 plus 400 plus 20 plus 8, when you add these up, you will end up with this as your sum. So you really don't need to go through this whole process. If you understand place values, then all you need to do is just go to here like this, automatically. Our last section we're going to go over is converting. Now we're back to division, the components of it, and we're going to be converting improper fractions to mixed numbers. So we're going to do number 1 and number 4. So improper fractions is when our numerator is greater than our denominator, which 18 over 4 is. So 18 over 4 is the same thing as 18 divided by 4. Now what does division have to do with converting from improper to mixed? Well, this should be mixed. So mixed fraction involves the fraction. It involves it. We have our quotient, we have our remainder, our divisor. So in order to find what these are, we have to divide these two numbers in order to find them. So from this, we know our divisor is 4, and we know that our dividend is 18. Our dividend is 18. So now I'm going to go through the steps. I'm going to be filling it in, plugging it in. So our divisor 4, just following the format as we've done for the past problems. And then our dividend will be 18. Now we just have to divide normally since 4 is not a decimal. Our divisor is not. So 4 goes into 18 4 times. Because 4 times 4 is 16. And if you end up with it, you'll end up with 2 as our remainder. As we learned from our previous lesson, this is how we find our remainder. So now we know our remainder, color-coded in yellow. And we know our quotient, color-coded in green. And we know our divisor, color-coded in red. So now using these numbers, all I have to do is plug this in like this. So our quotient, 4, remainder 2 over 4. So now this is our mixed fraction. It's not simplified, so we're going to simplify right now to equal 4 half. So this is our mixed number for 18 over 4. Pretty easy as long as you follow these steps. So I'm going to go over number 4 briefly and quickly. So we know that 47 is our dividend. So it's going to go inside. And then we know that 5 is our divisor. So now I'm just going to divide normally. 5 goes into 47 around 9 times because 9 times 5 is 45. Once you subtract this, it will be our remainder, 2. And then I'm just going to place the remainder over here. So now we know our quotient, our remainder, our divisor, and I just have to put it into this format, and that would be it. So what we will get, we should be able to get 9 to 5. 9 2 fifths. So color coding is just to help you when you do these problems. Color coding could be very helpful for you. You can do them. But as you get used to these problems, you realize that you really don't need a color code. You'll just know it instinctively after you do a lot of these problems. And that's it for today.